any kind of intelligence gathering, right?
Yeah.
Like human intelligence, signals intelligence. If the intelligence is there, but it's not shared, is it happening? It's like this shared intelligence is like what makes it, what the only way to alleviate the blind spots, I think, is you've got to exchange the context. You got to share the intelligence at machine speed, because humans are too slow.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Cloud Security Podcast. I've got two awesome folks here, but shiny one in the middle. Paul, maybe you can start with first yourself, or a brief intro about yourself, man.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having us. First of all, we've been a big admirer of the podcast.
I appreciate
since
that.
We saw it. Definitely caught my eye first at the Fashion Week.
Oh, nice.
And
Yes.
I said, who's this guy? And started looking at the content. Amazing guests always. So we're really honored to be invited.
Thank you.
And so I'm Paul Barbosa, and I'm the VP of Cloud Business Unit at Checkpoint.
Awesome. And Brian, you're a returning guest. Brief intro about yourself as well, man.
Good to be back, Ashish. I think I don't know what I'll do at any conference if you're not there. Did record a podcast with you.
We're at all the conferences.
Yeah, so this has become a tradition over
Yes.
last year. My name is Brian McHenry. I am the leader of cloud security engineering on Paul's team at Checkpoint.
Awesome. And talking about cloud, I think we're at RSA, and even in the last 24 hours I've been here, we've had conversations about cloud, we've conversations about AI, we've conversations about edge security. So maybe just to set the picture between the world of edge security and cloud security, maybe if you want to give it a short first and to explain that to how do you see that world today, considering you guys have been in that space since a very long time?
Yeah, it's almost what's happening inside, right? Versus the edge that's incredibly dynamic and makes it super fun for us to have conversations with our customers, with our partners, with alliance partners as well.
Yeah.
Because revenue runs on clouds. And the agility and the speed that people are delivering, like just groundbreaking like applications to the world, puts the importance and the focus inside the cloud, but the edge is still there, right? And the perimeters are falling down as they traditionally were speaking, but it's still, as we see it, still important to have a federated strategy of what's happening on the edge, and not just a consideration of how quickly you can deploy and the agility to deploy, but like the enterprise class effectiveness that people traditionally appreciated in their on-premise environments, taking no steps backwards on the edge. And that's really the challenge, is maintaining the agility, but also maintaining the enterprise grade prevention kind of first strategies that people were so used to in the on-prem world.
Would that be the same for cloud as well? I don't know if you have some thoughts on there, Brian.
Yeah, I think there's increasing awareness around that. The cloud itself, I think, as Paul's alluding to, has its own edge.
Yep.
And cloud native tools quite often are not sufficient or not equivalent to the enterprise grade tools that we're used to. So whether it's a web app firewall, it's a network firewall, the cloud native providers, whether it be Azure, AWS, GCP, and others, they have those tools available on their platform, but they're not enterprise grade in some cases.
Yeah.
So as enterprises mature in their cloud adoption, they're finding, hey, I need to have the same level of security, same posture that I'm used to on-prem in my cloud edge.
Yeah.
And not only that, to the point of the federation that Paul's talking about is, hey, even if the tools are sufficient in the cloud, or if they were sufficient in the cloud, they are disparate. And in a multi-cloud world, if you're going from one environment to another environment, and you have 3 different tools in 3 different clouds, and then you have your on-prem tools, now that you have this tool sprawl, and you start to lose context in between how traffic is not only moving in and out of those clouds, but between those clouds.
Yeah.
So having a uniform type of tool at the edge is something that Checkpoint has been able to deliver in a very cloud-friendly, cloud-oriented virtual firewall form factor. Yeah, it's really changed the game in the way our customers have been approaching their edge security in the cloud.
That's awesome, because I was going to say, you mentioned multi-cloud as well. There's not just a hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, private cloud. There is also this wave of Kubernetes containers. There's like a whole thing happening in there as well. And I guess maybe for people who would have had traditionally a network only in data center moving to cloud today, and surprisingly, there are people still moving to cloud today, and people who are moving to multi-cloud, people who are moving towards a mix of, I have acquired a company, they have their own thing. What are some of the use cases? And in terms of edge security, to what you said, what is the role for a full story of that whole application all the way to, from the runtime perspective, all the way to the back end or the edge security? What's the use case there?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like as we have these conversations, and nothing's static. There's the plan.
Yeah.
And then there's the reality that happens. And they were like, oh, we're moving these apps. And to your point, oh, we just acquired somebody. Okay, what's their tool set? And there's this period of like answering the questions in succession.
Yeah.
And so I think as we're having these conversations, we hear a lot about, first, we're getting our arms around it. First question is, what's my visibility? What's the posture inside of it? And they start asking questions about, okay, what's vulnerable? What's exposed?
Yep.
And those series of questions chain themselves down a tool set. And then people are like, wait a minute, we need to do something about this, not just alert.
Yeah.
And so that whole progression of CNAP is what we see. Then it gets to be a bit recursive in two directions. Like one is, why do we have all these vulnerabilities in the first place? Like we should be shifting left more, like catching these in the dev cycle. But then at the same time, it's, but how do we prevent at the edge? And so as people grow up through whatever strategy they had and the realities that they face, we see a lot of like, where do we bring consistency back?
Yeah.
So that we have a modicum of control over like an environment that's like never static, that changes all the time, that you can't really anticipate so much. So like where you can standardize, where you can get consistency, where you can pull the tool sprawl back.
Yeah.
That's a lot about like where we're taking our strategy. Here's a foundation. Like here's like the rocks of Gibraltar. That you can like really control what's going through these straits.
Yeah.
And give you time, right,
Yeah.
to go and assess those needs of security that are so multi-layered inside the cloud.
And I think it's the evolution of defense in depth and applying it to the cloud architecture, right? So Kubernetes and those things sit at one layer of the public cloud, and even on-prem, right? So you have all these things that exist in layers and the ability to monitor, detect, and respond at various layers. And even if we shift all the way left and get really good code coming out, you still have platforms, whether it's an application server platform, a database, what have you, that are going to have vulnerabilities over time. And you're not necessarily going to be able to patch at the rate of discovery.
Yeah.
So you need, to Paul's point, you need to have those straits and there's bottlenecks that you can channel traffic through and ensure that you have the compensating controls via those defensive depth layers.
Yeah.
Defense in depth is probably the oldest concept in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And it remains the most relevant in my view.
And 0 days are a good example for this as well. To your point, you may patch, you may have the best code out there, but all it would take is 1 0 day that comes out and next thing, or open SSH or whatever they think,
Right.
Heartbleed. They get so many examples that came out of people that one thought this should have been solved, I don't know, 20 years ago. Why didn't we look at this then? So is that also where edge security has an advantage?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you can make policy changes on an edge security platform, be it a web app firewall, network firewall, that is much less disruptive than say a patch over an application server platform, database platform, what have you. So that again is compensating controls. It doesn't mean I'm not going to patch that vulnerability. It just means, Paul's point, I can buy myself some time to respond.
Yeah.
So it really is about mean time to remediate, mean time to mitigate.
Yeah.
Post discovery, whether that's a 0 day or you're doing a vulnerability assessment. And I think that's where we have this advantage in partnering with folks like Wiz, where get the context from the workload. We understand what's going on at the workload level, at the Kubernetes level. Then what can we do to remediate, provide better context, rating those vulnerabilities, providing other means of remediation other than simply, hey, go patch this. That's usually rich directive you get from your CNAP. So hey, go patch it. Yeah. And really what you would like is to have an alternative to that. Again, a compensating control in your defensive depth model.
Yeah.
It's like the missing context, right, across the whole end-to-end security in the cloud.
Yeah.
I think for so long, these spaces have grown so fast, and there's been so many great vendors coming out with like innovative security tools, right, for emerging tactics, techniques, all that kind of thing that like is necessary.
Yeah.
But like in so many ways, it was like, here's the tools.
Yeah.
Go do something with these. And I don't know anybody in security that's, hey boss, I'm done with my projects. What, you give me something else to do. Everyone's so busy.
So bored right now.
Yeah, nobody, nothing to do. So we took a look at our strategy and we thought this open garden should be more on the vendors to say like platformization and all that kind of thing to deliver a platform. We see that consolidation, everyone does. But at the same time, like there should be connections that the industry makes. And the connection and the alliance we signed with Wiz was an example of that, where we said, look, just because something's vulnerable doesn't necessarily mean it's exposed. And the compensating control, like the network, the cloud firewall knows what policies are there.
Yeah.
How come the CNAP doesn't know that? We should be doing something to help the industry and customers go, okay, I bought some time. It's critical, but it's not exposed. So is it on the 3 a.m. list?
Yeah.
No, it's not. And we signed we just announced a integration with Illumio.
Oh, yeah.
So we're trying to bring this, again, in the same way in Open Garden that says micro segmentation in the cloud is a legit, valid strategy to secure your cloud. Macro segmentation is also legit.
Yeah.
How come they're not exchanging context? And we brought those two contexts together where Illumio can read the logs from the cloud firewall and make better informed decisions on the policies. With micro segmentation, we're having some fun with the analogy, and we were like, you've got a fine granular view of who's going into a house and what rooms they're going into and such, but we didn't have any information of who came in the city gate. So they should be talking to each other. And that's what's exciting for us right now is this fresh approach. Let's open this up. Let's integrate for the benefit of our customers, because nobody has time on their hands.
100%. Would you say there are blind spots as well? Because I think as I hear this, to your point about not knowing someone who came through the city gates, it's almost like making me also think that maybe a lot of people are not even aware that they have these problems. So
yeah, totally. It's always any kind of intelligence gathering, right?
Yeah.
Like human intelligence, signals intelligence. If the intelligence is there, but it's not shared, is it happening? It's like this shared intelligence is like what makes it the only way to alleviate the blind spots, I think, right? Is you've got to exchange the context. You've got to share the intelligence at machine speed, because humans are too slow.
And I think there's in a cloud maturity model, right? When enterprise is first adopting public cloud, there's a presumption that the cloud is providing a certain amount of security. They looked at the shared responsibility model and they mentally noted, there's a shared responsibility model and some of the security is on me, but there's often early on in the cloud adoption, there's not a real serious cognizance of, there are some things I really need to pay close attention to that the cloud provider may not be providing me with what I need based on my enterprise's requirements. And that only compounds when they start to adopt multiple clouds and need to assess each cloud on its own merits. So that blind spot often comes from presumptions of where the security is coming from. And what we see with the more mature enterprises in their cloud adoption is that they're very cognizant that, hey, the cloud only provides just so much security, and I need to bring a practice to bear. I need to mature my own practice of how I secure my cloud environments. And it's a journey that we see a lot of customers on at various stages. I think one of our last conversations talked about how there's 85% of like enterprises still aren't really in the cloud at all. So, really crazy.
That's right.
That there's so many that are early in the journey.
We used to talk to people in 2025 moving to cloud, and you almost think, wow, you're getting digital transformation in 2025. And I think it's also a humbling moment. You realize that there's obviously what we feel is the majority versus what the real majority is as well. So for people who are building security programs at the moment for 2025 and thinking about, a lot of enterprises already have a program, but they're trying to uplift it for some of the things that you might be seeing. First question is more around, what are you seeing as the emerging trends in your space that you're seeing that people should be keeping an eye on?
But what I'm seeing is the intervention of the security program at the architectural decision period of moving applications into a hybrid environment or purely lifting and shifting, because we see foundational blueprints to get the application going. What does it need? What's the routing? How do we make it available? How do we scale it? All those things that you need to do, make the app work. And then those blueprint recommendations, they're like shared responsibility gets moved in a sense. And so like trends we're seeing for programs is who's making the call on the security policies that exist today, and how informed is that architectural decision for that migration happening? Because we do see it split, right? Even in a lot of the partners that we work with, here's the cloud practice. And their mission is to deliver the app. And here's our security practice. And are they talking to each other? And as industry, what can we do to make the products facilitate that discussion? So we see that as an emerging trend of making the connections again at the architectural decision layer, not, we got a set of tools now running and we want to pull it back. We want to apply this, and it's hard at that point.
Did you want to add anything to the trends you're noticing?
I mean, I think multi-cloud still is the biggest trend I see. Enterprises trying to master their multi-cloud presence and get their arms around the problem. And in the same way, a trend that's ongoing is I constantly hear CISO saying, I need to consolidate vendors. I need to shrink the number of tools that I have to manage. And multi-cloud only exacerbates that same problem. So I think those two things continue to be a trend that's pushing forward. And then to Paul's point, I think is the trend towards remediation rather than just visibility.
Yeah.
Really trying to get more complete picture context so that I can say with some certainty, I know that I've remediated this exposure,
Yeah.
or I've reduced the risk of exploitation in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So that is really become a big focus. We've seen a lot of customers saying, yeah, I've got all kinds of different things that assess vulnerability for me, from the application layer, the network layer, the workload layer. So I have all these different tools for vulnerability assessment.
Yeah.
But what can I actually do to start meaningfully remediating and reducing the time to remediate? So that's a trend. And I don't know that all the tools have caught up. This open and garden approach of integrating with third-party vendors, integrating with the clouds, and so forth. By doing that, we can gain this better context that enables faster remediation.
And I guess it goes back to what Paulie was saying about having the context across the board. I'm thinking more from say, you have edge security, but there's an incident that happens. At that point in time, it's very critical for you to know the entire context to what you said. Is it a 3 a.m. issue, or is it I can come back to this 9 a.m. tomorrow morning? That's totally fine.
Yeah. And like from a trend standpoint too, it's what we see is, of course, we can't have the conversation without saying AI, right? And we have to at some point, like,
yeah, of course.
It's obligatory, but
of course,
it's meaningful. It's real beyond the hype, right? It's like moving from alert to a ticket to a queue to an alert, context informed, and then where can AI co-pilots or AI ops help take action where it's appropriate within the right bounds of not breaking anything, but we are seeing that as a trend, and we all should be challenged with that. How are you leveraging what we hear? How are you leveraging AI to make the operations and the response more immediate and focus on exactly what needs to happen? And where we're going with our alliance with Wiz is in that direction.
Yeah, okay.
So
right.
we can say, look, here's Wiz, and they've detected a vulnerability, right, in this Apache server, and it's bad. It's critical.
Yeah.
And the context reading the firewall policy is, hey, and we agree. Checkpoint agrees on the edge. There is no IPS policy here.
Yeah.
Would you like to enable IPS on this given the context? So we enrich the alert from Wiz.
Yeah.
We inform the security policy on the edge, and then give an easy way for customers to take action.
Yeah.
That's the vision, right, that we want to deliver. When we talk to customers, they're like, yes.
Yeah.
That is the right direction, right?
Yeah.
Bring these two things together, give me context, but then make it easier for me to get out of the ticket to the queue give me something actionable right now.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. Irrespective. It's not about, I've got visibility into 5,000 alerts. It's which one of those 5,000 should I really care about right now?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We always ask, what's the drift? We hear that a lot. What's the drift over time? So I've got 10,000 alerts. Is that good? Is that more than yesterday? Is it going down? What's the contextual enrichment that says okay, like now, what did we take action on? What did we prevent from happening?
Security programs in 2025, should they have, I would love to hear from both of you as well, based on the trends you've kind of shared. Most enterprises that have multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, they all obviously have complexity going on at the moment. And there's a push for consolidation as well, to what you were saying as well. What do you see as people should consider putting in their security programs in 2025? People are trying to uplift it. Many people are walking these roads of RSA, figuring out, hey, what am I uplifting? Is this something I should include if I haven't included already? What are your thoughts on people who are out there looking for what should they consider putting in security programs?
I think cloud application detection and response, or ADR, or CADR, CER, it goes by a bunch of different names.
Thank God, no.
all the acronyms. But detection and response, as it applies to applications in the cloud, I think is something that everyone should be looking at. If you're in the cloud, you need to be looking at detection and response, because that's where the remediation we're talking about comes from. And that's really the points of integration that we're building with Illumio, with Wiz, is to improve detection and response. And I think that's where the rubber hits the road, like you were saying. Like that, what can I take action on? What is the drift over time? Is this just whack-a-mole? Like one alert down and two more spring up? And you got to get to a point where you're starting to understand, am I reducing my risk over time? Am I improving my posture? Because ultimately, you want to be, as a security practitioner, go to your CISO and say, hey, at the end of the day, this is what our posture looks like. We're improving.
Yeah.
From a gamification point of view, am I improving? Am I getting 5 stars today where I was only at 2 stars at the start of the year? That's the kind of thing you want to be able to demonstrate to the business. So you can say that to your CISO, and your CISO can then go to say to the business, like, yes, our risk is reducing over time. We're improving our security practice in a measurable way.
Yeah.
And that's where detection and response can really create that measurability on risk reduction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's said, Brian, and I do think it's almost visibilities. We've answered that question.
Yeah,
As an industry, it's not enough anymore.
that's right. Yeah.
Like the uplift gets into visibility and
Yeah.
visibility to action.
Yeah.
But we did have the challenge. There's no question we needed visibility. So we were all focused on just getting our arms around answering those initial questions.
Yeah.
What's my posture? And that took a lot of time. It took a lot of work to normalize, like seeing into everything we needed to see.
Yeah.
Still work to be done. But I think like uplifting for sure is like taking that visibility to now action oriented outcomes.
Yeah. And I guess what I'm hearing from both of you is also maybe people should have a closer look at the success metrics for their security programs. Instead of, to your point, do I have visibility? Why not focus on, hey, what does my mean time to detection response looking like? Is my alerts reducing over time? It's a lot more about, hey, yes, you want to consolidate, but are you probably even using the tools you have in the first place? So visibility would definitely highlight that. Hey, we don't have exposure to most of the stuff, then go back to that. But at least having a success metrics that to what both of you mentioned with over time, reducing the time it takes to detect something, to respond to something, that is probably a great measure, especially in a world which is, if you're going with what the industry is saying with the AI attacks around the corner, where it's going to be very dynamic, the mean time to detection and the mean time to response is going to be really quite crucial. Yeah. So
100%.
yeah, I'm just excited for that. But I think those are technical questions I had. I've got 3 fun questions for you guys as well. Brian, you heard that before, but I'll let you go first.
Okay.
And then Brian can answer after you. The first one being, what do you spend most time on when you're not trying to solve the cybersecurity problems of the world?
Oh boy, I spend most of my time trying to figure out how to take a tiny white golf ball and strike it and make it go where I want it to go.
And actually hit the ball as well.
And actually hit the ball. I spend a ton of my off time when I'm not thinking about this, obsessing about what am I going to do with that tiny white ball and how can I get it straight and down the fairway.
Is that a handicap for such a stage? Because I'm in the same stage as you are. Is that a considered?
Let me give you an insider tip on this. And the golf fanatics out there may like faint when I say this. Keeping score ruins the game.
Really?
I've come up with an entirely new scoring system,
Yeah.
which I give my point. 1 point to me if I hit 1 good shot per hole. It's a much more like relaxed way to play the game.
Of course.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
but
fair.
don't keep score.
I'm going to use that. What about you, Ryan? Has it changed?
So really just a lot more travel of late. My wife has been traveling a lot for her job. So we've been trying to interweave work and personal travel. So I've been to Switzerland, Portugal.
Oh, nice.
Going to France later this summer. I'm going to go to Cannes for my first time. With tag along on one of my wife's trips. So
Oh, wow.
I'm going to celebrate her birthday while we're there. Yeah. So travel is the big thing. And then the other thing is I don't know why we did this to ourselves, but we're going to put a pool in the summer. I don't know why, but I think we just need a big chaotic project.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because travel by itself is not like fascinating and chaotic enough. Let's just add one more thing in there. Because second question for yourself, what is something that you're proud of that is not on your social media?
Out of that I'm not on with
Hitting the
not
ball.
with social media. Gosh, spending time with my parents.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we've got the opportunity now that my kids are grown and off around the world
Yeah.
to really invest in spending time with my parents. And I don't know if it's like pride, but it's just gratifying.
Oh,
I
fair.
would
Do
say.
they want you there or just showing?
In fact, they are beginning golfers themselves
Oh.
in their late 70s.
Oh,
Got bitten by the bug. And so when I am in town, I get the real joy and privilege to spend at least 4 hours a weekend.
Oh,
with
nice. So you guys you would use a new scoring system. No handicap.
Yeah,
No handicap system,
Just,
fair.
we just time hours spent together.
Don't worry about hitting the ball.
Yeah,
Let this
yeah.
time, that,
We'll just be out in nature.
that's
enjoying
right.
each other's
Enjoy the
company.
walk. Yes. What do you, Ryan?
So I'm not really on much social media besides LinkedIn. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit easier question for me, but usually my wife encouraged me because I was like briefly obsessed with this show, Forged in Fire. And some of your listeners might have seen it. It's on the
Okay.
History Channel, but
Yeah.
I'm starting to take some inner courses on bladesmithing.
Oh, shit. Okay. Wow.
So it's a new hobby. It's not golfing. It's still hitting.
But it's way more interesting, which is generally the measure we
I
go.
mean,
Brian's more interesting. By
I know.
far.
I was gonna say, you can actually see the shape forming as well when it comes out of it as well.
As a lot of people that I've talked to say about it, is I get to play with fire and hit stuff. So it's
It's a win-win. Yeah, it's a win. I love that. Third question: favorite cuisine or restaurant? Well,
favorite cuisine by far, no question, immediately Korean barbecue.
Oh, yes.
All day, every day, all you can eat.
Favorite restaurant then? What's the favorite Korean barbecue restaurant?
I like Gen K.
Okay. Is that in the
It's
Bay Area?
Bay Area.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
very dependable. Always good.
Okay. Then.
Yeah.
All right. I'm a Korean barbecue fan as well. So that's pretty awesome. What about you, Brian?
Sushi all day.
All day
Okay.
sushi. All day sushi.
And my favorite that I've ever had was actually just a month or two ago. Went to Tokyo with my family for the first time. Never been to Japan
Wow.
before. And we did a 12-course private omakase experience that was outrageous.
Oh,
If you go to Tokyo, splurge and get an omakase experience. He's a chef where there's 8 seats and you got to reserve it well in advance. That's the one tip. Reserve it well in advance. before you
Okay.
go on your trip. Get an omakase experience if you ever go to Tokyo.
it's the whole thing that the chef is just basically playing with fire, doing all of that.
It's less fire because it's not the hibachi thing. It's
Oh,
sushi.
right,
It's
okay,
behind the
yeah.
sushi counter, and he's just making one little piece of sushi. Like each course is just one piece of sushi or one piece of a roll, and it just keeps coming. And it's like, and you think, oh, I'm never going to get full off of like 15 courses of one piece of sushi. You get full.
All right.
And it's the most delicious thing I've ever eaten.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to put that in my list as well. Tokyo is top of the list for places to go for me as well. So thank you for sharing that. Where can people find you, Paul, on the internet to connect with you and talk more about edge security and what Checkpoint is up to?
Yeah, definitely on LinkedIn. Hit me up. Let's have some conversations about it.
Awesome. Brian,
Then for me, LinkedIn.
the one and only platform that is the true social media platform for all of us at RSA, LinkedIn.
And catch Fashion Week.
Oh, yes. RSA Fashion Week, people. Definitely tune in. Thank you for that, everyone. See you next time. Peace. Thank you so much for listening and watching this episode of Cloud Security Podcast. If you've been enjoying content like this, you can find more episodes like these on www.cloudsecuritypodcast.tv. We are also publishing these episodes on social media as well, so you can definitely find these episodes there. Oh, by the way, just in case there was interest in learning about AI cybersecurity, we also have a sister podcast called AI Cybersecurity Podcast, which may be of interest as well. I'll leave the links in the description for you to check them out. And also for our weekly newsletter, where we do in-depth analysis of different topics within cloud security, ranging from identity, endpoint, all the way up to what is the CNAP or whatever a new acronym that comes out tomorrow. Thank you so much for supporting, listening, and watching. I'll see you next time.